So it is not a big. I'm trying to be a little more just so I know what yeah.
When you come in, you're not like mailing it in.
That is precise. That's it. I thought, like, okay, well, this is a learning opportunity.
I'm sorry.
I told them don't touch it. Don't touch it. Sure. All right.
If you can find your seats, we'll reconvene. Also, prior to getting started, there is a BMW in the parking lot, license plate beginning with SL, a dark BMW that left your lights on. If that's anyone on board or in the audience, you may want to check your vehicle before your battery goes dead. And also, we've been requested by the audience, if you're speaking, make sure, one, your mic is on, and two, that you're speaking loudly. They're having trouble hearing us in the back of the room. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the public comment period. We have a total of 15 people signed up to speak. That exceeds our 20-minute limit. It's the board's purview to allow an additional 10 minutes for our public to speak. And I will entertain a motion if the board is willing to extend our public comment period.
So moved. Second.
Heard a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So we will extend the public comment period. This is a reminder to those that are speaking that this is your opportunity to address the board on any topic of your choosing. As Ms. Jansen alluded earlier, if you have printed materials for us, please leave those on the table and she will see that they are properly distributed. There is a 2-minute time limit. You see the clock on the board. It starts when you begin speaking. At the end of the 2 minutes, your time to speak will conclude and the microphone will be turned off. So, Ms. Jansen, if you could start the public comment period, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be calling 2 names at a time. The first is the person who is up to speak, and the next is the person who is on deck. So our first speaker will be Carol Sargent, and on deck is Sharon Landrum.
Just as a reminder before you start, that this is an opportunity to present to the board. The board does not respond to comments or questions.
So my name is Carol Sargent. I've been a registered nurse since 1967, and I have a master's degree in public health.
I am talking about our public health agencies. The public has lost a lot of trust in any government agency, but particularly in the realm of public health. And there's a good reason for that. The FDA recently settled out of court for interfering. They were charged with interfering with the physician-patient relationship and not being allowed to prescribe ivermectin for the treatment of COVID, and also the pharmacists were allowed to fill it. So this was a treatable virus, and many people died from lack of treatment. The second thing is the CDC received a FOIA request for documentation of a study they did on the incidence of myocarditis after mRNA vaccination. They submitted 148 pages, every word redacted. Now a federal judge has forced the CDC to release all vaccine injury reports. So there's no wonder there's a lack of trust in the agencies. The FCC is another agency not to be trusted. Thousands of studies have been done on humans and animals, and they've been ignored by the FCC. The FCC itself does not do any research. They stopped in the 1990s. They also have not upgraded their guidelines since 1996, despite the rollout of 5G. Joel Moskowitz, researcher at the School of Public Health at Berkeley, UC, says that the FCC is a revolving door between membership in the FCC and the telecom industry, and has been for decades. They spend millions lobbying, millions funding campaigns of members of Congress and other top-level officials, while citizens are suffering from the health effects of non-ionizing radiation. We asked the Virginia Health Department to investigate the exposure of citizens to non-ionizing radiation by way of cell tower placements in residential areas, parks, and schools. We asked the Health Department to develop and propose ordinances, resolutions, and legislation to our elected governing body. And we asked the Health Department to initiate a campaign to educate citizens to the danger of EMF from cell phones and other devices that emit non-ionizing radiation. Thank you. Woo!
The next speaker is Sherry Lambert, and on deck is Tom Jeffries.
I'd like to share data on radiation safety based on published science, testing results, and public standards. At the bottom end of the radiation scale of what's called power density or signal strength is the minimum level at which cell phones will work, which is 0.2 billionths of a microwatt per centimeter squared. At 0.00027, pine needles were found to age prematurely. At short-term exposures of 0.05, children aged 8 through 17 experience headache, irritation, concentration difficulties, and behavioral problems. 0.1 is the building biology guideline for extreme concern. 1.0 produced sperm DNA fragmentation and a decrease in sperm viability in vitro. And the following: headaches, dizziness, fatigue, insomnia, chest pain, difficulty breathing, and indigestion. 2.5 saw altered calcium metabolism in heart muscle cells. 4.0 changes in the hippocampus, affecting brain, memory, and learning. And at 6.0, DNA damage in cells. So where are smart meters? Electrical Power Institute in December 2010 measured a single Itron smart meter with pulses up to 7.93 or approximately 8.0. These tests are at a close distance of approximately 1 feet away from the meter, but an infant's crib could be just as close as on the other side of the wall where the meter is installed. Even though there are all these known health effects at levels far lower, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and Luxembourg set the standard at 9.5, China, Poland, and Russia at 10.0. A room of 12 smart meters, very common in an apartment building, tested at 19.8. This is hundreds of times higher than levels which clearly indicate harmful effects. How can utilities and governments get away with forcing these devices on everyone? Well, in Canada and the US, the safety limit is set at 600 to 1,000 microwatts per centimeter squared. This is literally tens of thousands
Thank you
times
for your
higher.
comment. The next speaker will be Tom Jeffries, and on deck is Julie Cumming.
Good morning, my name is Tom Jeffries from Northumberland County. I'm going to read to you just a real brief summary of a paper that is 1,086 pages by Ronald Kostoff. He's a research affiliate of the Georgia Institute of Technology. The name of this paper is called The Largest Unethical Medical Experiment in Human History. It's copyright 2020. We are in the midst of the largest unethical medical experiment in human history. This experiment is the implementation and operation of a global wireless network for communications, surveillance, and other purposes. It is a medical experiment because we do not know the full extent of the adverse health effects that will result from this wireless network implementation and operation. It is an unethical medical experiment because it violates the key ethical medical experiment requirement of informed consent from the participants. Even though the adverse health effects of wireless radiation reported over the past 70+ years span the range of severity from discomfort to lethality, we do not know the full extent of adverse health effects from this technology because most laboratory experiments aimed at identifying wireless radiation health effects bear no relation to real-life exposures and are performed under the most benign conditions of single stressors, wireless radiation only, no pulsing and modulation of the carrier signal, no synergistic effects of other toxic stimuli acting in concert with the wireless radiation. These experimental deficiencies are compounded by lack of access to the global classified literature on adverse health effects from wireless radiation, and lack of knowledge of proprietary, basic, and advanced studies on advanced health effects from wireless radiation. The adverse wireless radiation health effects that have been identified already from the incomplete literature openly available are massive in scope and magnitude. They support the conclusion that wireless radiation, as already implemented, is extremely dangerous to human health. I encourage you to just go in and Google largest unethical medical experiment in human history. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is really coming on deck is Pamela Burnham.
Hello, board members. My name is Julie Cummings, and I would like for you to listen to Grace's testimony from the State Corporation Commission from November 20, 2023.
There's one simple sugar hack anyone can do to balance glucose levels almost overnight. Did you know that? Hey, did you forget something at the Bearskin store? We just wanted to let you know that we reserved your Bearskin hoodie 3.0 for you. This is the hearing examiner. You can please state your name and address for the record. My name is Grace Cooper, and I'm at 8701 Margaret Lane, Annandale, Virginia, 22003. Okay, and you can provide your testimony. Okay, my name is Grace. I am a wife and a mom, and I suffer from severe electro hypersensitivity, EHS. I have known about this for many years, and once we realized the source of my many problems, we removed all Wi-Fi, wireless devices, and cordless phones from my home. Our computers all run on Ethernet wires, and everyone knows to put their phones on airplane mode when they come into my home. Fortunately, my EHS system vanished after we took all these measures, as the levels in my home became very low. It is tough for me to navigate in this technology-ridden world, as I can't be in many places that have too much RF radiation, but at least I can feel safe and comfortable in my own home. This was the case until November 1st, when smart meters were installed in my neighborhood. Although I didn't let them install one on my home, I am being affected by my neighbor's meters. As a result, I have to currently occupy only a small square footage of my basement where the RFR is the lowest. I am unable to care for my family, and I can't even cook a meal in my own kitchen.
Thank you. The next speaker is Pamela Burnham, and on deck is Doris Nick.
You ran down the clock while she was trying to get her thing to start on her phone.
Can you give her 30
She
more
lost
seconds?
like 35 seconds of her 2 minutes. That's not fair.
We don't have time to hear from the public, those who testify in court about being injured by something you want to ignore.
The next speaker is Pamela Burnham, and on
That's
deck
okay.
is Doris
I got
Nick.
this. We got this. We got this.
Good morning. My name is Pamela. I'm with the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance team. Virginians are dealing with the mandate to receive smart utility meters. The industry is claiming that analog utility meter software is out of date. This has been disproven by other states that have decided to allow analog meters to remain. Those meters have worked well for 20+ years without additional fees for consumers. This is part of the Great Reset agenda for spying on people in their own homes. Government-sanctioned data collection, prying them with erratic microwave pulses that are known to cause biological harm, ultimately coercing and controlling behavior and curbing energy usage at their will while charging consumers astronomical fees. The FCC, which regulates utilities in Virginia, held a hearing about rate charges for Dominion's opt-out policy, among other things. I'm providing you all with copies of the highlights regarding opt-out charges. What you should find suspicious is that while under oath, Dominion representatives were unable to provide levels of radiation that consumers are receiving. You should also pay close attention to the fact that the hearing examiner recommended opt-out options. He was flooded with testimonies of health problems and concerns from across our beautiful state. They also reported concerns of intrusion of privacy rights, fire hazards, and exorbitant price increases, all of which I believe we've spoken to you about before, but difficult to fit within a 2-minute timer. What we need are 3 things. Number 1, we need you to look at the New Hampshire Commission report. Your work has already been done by their state's health department to examine the concerns of 5G wireless radiation. Each of you will get a copy emailed to you so that you can see the results for yourself. It's 390 pages long. It would behoove you to get a radio frequency meter so you can see these invisible threats for yourself. Number 2, we need you to recognize that you are in an important position to protect humanity, including and especially our children who are not vectors of disease, as one of the Board of Health members stated publicly in the past.
The next speaker is Doris Nick, and on deck is Sheila Fury.
Doris Connect, Virginia Medical.
Doris Nick, Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance. Good afternoon. We need number 2. We need you to recognize that you are in an important position to protect humanity. We are all made in His image. Oh darn, I lost my spot. We have God-given rights to protect our lives, health, and property, and shall not be infringed upon. I'm aware that no amount of evidence can ever convince people whose minds are closed and think that they know everything. Please humble yourselves, get educated on this topic, and prove that you truly care about Virginia's health. Listen to the EMR Hazards 2024 Summit. It's free because they recognize the importance of educating us on this danger, but it is an invaluable source of excellent research by world-renowned experts. Number 3, we want you to contact our Attorney General, the Lieutenant Governor, and the Governor, and tell them that smart meters are a serious health concern and that analog meters should remain or be reinstalled for all requesting customers at no charge. The ADA protects individuals harmed by microwave frequencies for clear reasons. There are over 7 decades of suppressed research on this subject. We know that mandates are a tool of bullies, criminals, and dictators who can't persuade on the merits. This was best said by lawyer Aaron Seary. We the people of Virginia know that we cannot comply our way to freedom. We will not comply. And we expect that all elected officials will respect our rights as smart consumers to say no thank you. No state or utility regulatory entity is allowed to use extortion to coerce us. We will protect our own family's health, personal private data, pocketbooks, and our homes. We will not pay more to not be injured in our own home with a product we never asked for, regardless of the funding given to our legislators to approve and push these smart meters. This should be across the board for all utility companies. We expect that the State Corporation Commission allow farmers and business owners to keep their analog meters should they choose to do so, and those that are behind on their bills. Forgiveness should be made for those who are behind on their bills. All of God's people's lives matter. Thank you. As you serve the public and speak on our behalf, we look forward to hearing back from you.
The next speaker is Sheila Fury. On deck is Lori Leonard.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sheila Fury. I'm the president of the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance. On March 25th, 2024, I sent a letter to the governor, Dr. Karen Shelton, Jason Mieres, Secretary Lytle, and Dr. Hart. We are once again asking the Virginia Department of Health to retract their letter of October 28, 2021, that said ivermectin was dangerous. The FDA has just been slapped with a lawsuit that they lost for overstepping their bounds in the practice of medicine. The FDA does not practice medicine. They said that ivermectin was for horses and cows and not for people. As a result of that decision, and as a result of the actions by the Virginia Department of Health and hospitals around this across the Commonwealth, ivermectin was prohibited. The result was thousands of people died. They didn't have access to early treatment. Early treatment was the key to treating COVID and remains the key to treating COVID and viral illness. And yet, our Virginia Department of Health will not retract this letter and allow physicians and pharmacies to fully use ivermectin, and that all pharmacists will distribute ivermectin. So I ask that you do that. Further, I ask that you be aware that on May 27th, the UN and the WHO are voting on pandemic treaties and the International Health Accords. These will take away physicians' rights and the rights of all the citizens of the United States, because they will be taken over by the World Health Organization and these draconian measures that will limit the freedom and the ability for all citizens to live in a healthy environment. Thank you.
The next speaker is Lori Leonard. On deck is Tyrone Jarvis.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard with the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance. I quote, "The Virginia State Board of Health exists to promote and protect the health of all Virginians. Improvement of Virginia's public health infrastructure and improvement in the health and well-being of all Virginians are listed," unquote, are listed as priority issues of the board. I have given you 2 handouts today. One is a pamphlet about vaccination harms published by the Weston A. Price Foundation. I draw your attention to the other handout now, which is copied from Dr. James Thorpe's message on X, April 3rd, 2024. Dr. Thorpe is boarded by the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology and has been in practice for over 44 years. He is a maternal fetal medicine specialist in Illinois. Dr. Thorpe asks questions related to this handout and Pfizer's phase 2 out of 3 trial. 2 places in Virginia were sites for this trial: the Group for Women and Tidewater Physicians for Women, both in Norfolk. Related to your handout, refer to your handout as I repeat Dr. Thorpe's question, and I quote, "As a healthcare professional, science researcher, or physician, what does this data tell you from the Pfizer phase 2 out of 3 clinical trial? If you were a pregnant woman and your obstetrician showed you this data, would you have agreed to take the COVID-19 vaccine in pregnancy? Why were the patients in the placebo group subsequently vaccinated? Do you think that this clinical trial was adequately powered? Why was this submitted 18 months after the vaccine rollout? Given the grossly underpowered Pfizer phase 2 out of 3 clinical trial, had this clinical trial been completed, what do you think the results would have shown?" I ask the board, what is your response to these questions? Will you continue to ignore what we have presented to you over many months? Are you going to put more Virginia babies and moms at risk of deformities, disability, miscarriage, and death? You are responsible.
The next speaker is Tyrone Jarvis. On deck is Mary Odnett.
Good morning. I am Tyrone Jarvis. I own Go Green Automotive Care in Newport News, Virginia. I'm here to speak in support of the rainwater harvesting law. In 5 days, I'm going to be celebrating 9 years operating my company. We haven't used city water in that whole time. It's been a long effort. Mr. Creech has worked hard along with a lot of the stakeholders on our group. This law we created with my Republican Representative Delegate Yancey gained overwhelming support in the House and Senate. We sailed through with no opposition. Water is really, really vital to our survival. Smart management and capturing and reusing it wisely is going to be a tool that we need for this generation and the next. Rainwater harvesting helps water conservation, eases the stress in our public water systems. It curbs stormwater runoff, which creates like flooding, erosion problems, and stormwater pollution. It's also a matter of national security. Water can't be hacked if it's harvested at home on site by cyber threats, natural disasters. It's very resilient in many, many ways. I hope that this board can quickly approve it. It's been something that I've had a great passion for. And a lot of people asked us when we first implemented this in our shop, why we didn't just stay private about it. My response was, it wouldn't benefit no one in Virginia or our country. So to come forward and partner with our delegate and change the law benefits everybody and our natural resource for years to come and the next generation. So please quickly approve this final version so that we can grow and be the company we thought we could be. Thank you.
The next speaker is Mary Odnott, and on deck is Miley Armstrong.
Hi, my name is Mary Aptonak. I'm a registered nurse, been a nurse for over 14 years. I'm from the Midwest. But now I'm in Virginia, and I'm hoping that I can help you guys with some of your policies and your efforts here in the state. I've been doing policy work for quite some time, and now I do work in healthcare, child welfare, sort of law enforcement policy in the state. I currently serve on the Virginia Behavioral Health Advisory Council. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story. I was abducted by some bad actors who work in our medical systems. And I was abducted, put into a mental institution against my will, didn't know my abductors. There was about $4,000 per day attached to my head for my abduction. They were billing through a special state fund that has very little oversight. It happened at Dominion Fairfax County hospitals. I witnessed what I reported to Adult Protective Services. It was the first time in my career that Adult Protective Services didn't work. There's a whole entire process. I never got called back. It never went anywhere. So I reported what I witnessed to the human trafficking hotline because I saw so many other victims who couldn't get out of the hospital, didn't know why they were abducted. I also reported it to the Department of Homeland Security. I'm currently a member of HEAL Trafficking. That's an infrastructure for medical providers so that we can help identify human trafficking in our systems and be able to know how to report it. I implore everybody here to also become a member of HEAL Trafficking. My goal is to, ultimately, I had made a public comment and attached it to our mental health and substance use block grant for human trafficking, identification, and training to be done to all medical providers in the state. We need to know how to identify human trafficking right in front of us when it's doctors that's doing it, when it's law enforcement that's doing it, and that's my time. But thank you.
The next speaker is Miley Armstrong, and on deck is Ann Warner.
Good morning. I'm here to talk about the camp regulations that are proposed, the revision. Since 1860, American summer camps have been providing programs for child growth and safety. And as a career camp professional, I've worked in camps, and I now work in a business that supports camps. Today I represent dozens of camps across the state of Virginia, mostly overnight camps, that also bring our appreciation to the health department for not only looking at the regulations and bringing them up to date, but particularly to Breonna Bill, who has included us in the process and made it possible for us to help with these regulations. We've been involved in the process of the camp component. There's a huge variety of camps out there that these regulations will attach to, but it has made it possible for us to be a part of this system and to, at some respects, push back the specter of government overreach. We're not really interested in worrying about that, but we appreciate the opportunity to be involved in it. As a part of this process, I've had the opportunity to take Breonna to see some camps and to really make that connection between what the camps do and what the regulations will mean. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Ann Warner. On deck is Gareth Kalfas.
I'm Ann Warner, and I'm the owner and director of Camp Shenandoah, a small summer camp located in Bath County, Virginia. And I find that clock very intimidating. And I want to say, I'm going to reiterate a little bit of what Miley said. I would like to start off by saying thanks to you all for revisiting the summer camp regulations. It's been, Miley said, since 1974, since you all have looked at them. And there's one that just is rather humorous, apparently has not been looked at since the 50s. About milk being maintained at the temperature of 50 degrees before it's served. I don't think any of us at summer camps would even consider that as a possibility. I'm curious, well, before I get to my curious moment, I want to thank Breonna Bill also for all the effort she's put into this and she's become an advocate and a huge asset for the overnight camp industry. And I want to thank Miley for spearheading that event to help educate Brianna in who and what we are, and that clock is ticking. Curiosity about how many of you all attended overnight camp, and I bet there's probably a good number of you. And I just want to emphasize the different number, the broad spectrum of overnight camps out there. And just to take that into consideration, as these regulations are brought forth, that you're going to be representing small rural camps, similar to mine, to large agency camps that have access to public water and access to public water systems, rather than those of us who operate on antiquated. My camp is 98 years old this summer, and so we operate on antiquated wells and antiquated septic systems. Finally, because I have 2 seconds left, educate the health departments so that we have consistency across.
Is Gareth Kalfas, and on deck is Anthony Gomez.
Good morning. I'm Gareth Kalfas, Director of Chankle on the James Episcopal Camp and Retreat Center in Surrey, Virginia, former member of Episcopal Camps and Conferences National Board, former member of Local Council of Leaders for American Camp Association, Virginia. Involvement of camping professionals has been crucial to the ongoing process of updating these regulations, and we are so grateful for the partnership with Ms. Bill and DDH in working on camp safety, which we all find important. Well-run camps are not opposed to being reviewed or inspected. American Camp Association camps, Scout PSA camps are very familiar with accreditation standards, regular review, and many Virginia camps also invite peer review from their colleagues for improvement. Ms. Bill was open to feedback from camp directors and executive directors, which I believe is important. She spent the time to understand how our business is run and how varied our programs are. It's equally important that the health inspectors who carry these regulations into practice understand the industry they're inspecting. I'd encourage health inspectors who are tasked with inspecting these new standards to receive education not only in the regulations, but in the practical applications within the camp setting. I'm sure numerous of my colleagues will be open to offering instructional tours of their facilities, and we encourage VDH inspectors to participate in American Camp Association standards courses. Several of us have met prior to this meeting to review the regulations as amended. I believe one final review of the detail of the document is warranted and would be glad to partner with Ms. Bill again in that review. 2 core concepts, one being a recommendation of permitting and variances operating via permission by negation, as the Navy does, so that if we are not able to hear back from the overtasked VDH local departments regarding permits, we can operate our business until we do hear back regarding our submissions. And the latter is ensuring the scope of regulators are broad enough to cover the very different.
The next speaker is Anthony Gomez, and on deck is Kathy Stevens.
Good morning, my name is Anthony Gomez. I'm the director of Westview and James United Camp Retreat Center in Houston County. I'm here alongside my colleagues to thank Brianna Bill and the DDH for engaging us in this process as we reviewed the recommended regulations. In addition to serving at a local camp for many years, I have been a accreditation visitor for the American Camp Association. As I have reviewed the regulations that are being proposed to you all, I find in many places they echo directly the best practices that have been in place, or that have been put in place in the most recent update of the American Camp Association Accreditation Guide, and I think that is an incredibly valuable thing. Camps across the United States can opt to pursue accreditation at their expense. They may opt to not. In a given year, there will be over 10,000 camps operating in the United States. Typically, 3,000 to 4,000 of them will pursue accreditation. I think it's incredibly valuable that we've been able to engage in this conversation using the existing regulations from our body that for many decades has pursued the best practices around this industry. A final concept that I would like to echo from my colleague there, the proposed regulations, they are robust. When you look at the repealed regulations, we look at barely 1 page worth of regulations for the summer camp industry. What has been proposed is approximately 19 more pages of regulations. There will be a very needed process for education for camp operators and owners and directors across the state, and for our local health department officers that are going to be enforcing these regulations because of the significant growth that has been recommended. And I do thank you for your time and consideration.
The last speaker is Kathy Stevens. Hi, I'm here with the Virginia Medical Freedom Alliance to read an article I came across this week called The Hot Zone with Dr. Peter McCullough and John Lee on April 6, 2024. Pfizer just quietly, with zero media coverage, released the results of an obligatory post-marketing study on the effects of COVID-19 vaccine on pregnant women. The study evaluated the safety, tolerability, and immunogenicity of the vaccine against COVID-19 in healthy pregnant women 18 years of age and older. As Steve Kirsch observed in a recent thorough analysis, the study had contained numerous suspicious elements from its beginning. It began with Pfizer's laughable claim that it could not recruit a significant number of unvaccinated pregnant women to serve as the control group because it was impossible to find pregnant women who did not wish to receive the experimental COVID-19 vaccine. Though the trial sample was small and consisted of 156 infants of mothers who received the shot and 159 infants of mothers who received the placebo, the results showed a 4 times higher rate of congenital defects in the group who received the shot. Because there has been zero media coverage of these results, Pfizer has not been obligated to address this extremely alarming fact. If the company is pressed, it will undoubtedly claim that the sample size is not statistically significant because it was just too darn hard to recruit pregnant women who did not wish to receive the shot ASAP. And I have the sightings and the documentations that you could verify this trial on the clinicaltrials.gov. And thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair, there are no other persons signed up for public comment.
That closed our public comment period. The next item on the agenda are travel preparations from Alex. We're a little ahead of time, so lunch is not here yet, so we'll just continue with the agenda until it arrives.
Absolutely. So, as you know, the board is planning to travel in June for its meeting down to Norfolk and Virginia